Eclipse. I am Nick Hawks. Today is a special episode. We've got two guests and some pretty big news. Super excited to be breaking this. We've got Mike Horton, founder at GEODNET, and Alvaro Gracia, partner at Borderless Capital. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Hey, Nick. Thanks for having us.
I'm excited to have you guys on. Now, just having both of you guys on gives away a little bit of what we're going to be talking about. But before we start, this episode is sponsored by Eclipse Builders. If you're pushing the limits of what's possible on chain, you should build your own rollup with Eclipse. We'll have a little bit more on them later in the show. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. This alerts you for when the next episode drops and helps us keep sharing great episodes like this one. So let's kick this thing off. Mike, what are we talking about today?
Well, Nick, we're super excited to announce that we're strengthening the GEODNET Foundation through a token sale investment led by Borderless Capital.
That's pretty big news, especially in this kind of crypto winter season. So, Alvaro, how big is the round, and is anyone else part of it?
The round is almost 1.5 million, and we are taking the lion's share of it. Borderless is leading. We have 𝐒𝐻𝐽𝐻𝐿 participating, and also a long-standing angel investor at GEODNET.
Okay, super cool. So decent size. Mike, what does this enable for you guys?
So Nick, there are two, I think, really key things that this is investment in strengthening the foundation is going to do. It's going to give some room for the foundation to spread its wings and grow. We're going to be looking to expand, globally as we've been doing, but with a focus on some of the developing world regions, including Latin America, strengthening our core network in the US and Europe, bringing on more commercial users of the network, which has been growing really nicely. And then the second key thing that we're going to do is start to build out a mobile app ecosystem and SDK for people to take advantage of this highly trusted and highly precise location services within both the Web 2 and Web 3 app ecosystem. Right
on. So the two big things, kind of room to grow and developing these tools. Super exciting to see you guys have this plan and really build it out. Alvaro, let's talk about the investment thesis for Borderless and really the thing that drove you to invest in GEODNET.
Sure, Nick. As you know, we are very heavily invested into DePIN, and it's one of our most the categories that we dedicate most effort. We are looking for projects like GEODNET where we see a huge competitive advantage in applying the DePIN model to the industry that Mike and GEODNET is serving. In this sense, the scale of that GNSS correction network is of utmost importance, and also the geographical distribution, as well as managing those incentives. So we see that the DePIN model is just a perfect fit for what Mike is building. The other big part is also how clear and well-designed are the initial tokenomics of GEODNET. We really like those, and we think that are going to act as rocket fuel for that network to grow. The other important part is how Mike and the team has been able to bootstrap this project up to this point where they are almost at the point of starting to compete with the largest private GNSS networks. And also how the GEODNET team gets the Web3 ethos, right? And how they are always building with a community in mind and with a path to decentralization also in mind. So there's many aspects, but this is in summary what we believe are the most powerful things about GEODNET.
Awesome. All right, we'll get back to the guests in a minute. One of the super cool things about this show is that we get to talk to tons of projects across the space, including back-end nerdy stuff that helps deepen projects. One of those is today's show sponsor, Eclipse Builders. They're a customizable rollup provider deploying app-specific chains for several deepen projects. They allow you to pick your virtual machine, your base layer, and additional customizations to enable new functionality for your DApp. Eclipse is committed to helping builders build on deepen. Check them out at eclipse.builders and click the card above for a link to an interview we did with them if you haven't seen it. Mike, you've been super adamant about being transparent with GEODNET. Can you talk a little bit about how that applies here?
Well, yeah, so this is not one of these complicated equity token warrant structure deals. This is a straightforward token sale. The token movements are on chain, and we're really committed to the foundation being a true foundation and really supporting an ecosystem of builders, both in Web 2 and Web 3, that really utilize the open internet of GNSS corrections and to build out all kinds of different applications. A lot of them will be initially Web 2 based applications, because I think we're providing great disruptive value to a pretty traditional industry where there is a lot of revenue and a lot of economic impact today. You're talking about applications like agriculture, construction, automotive. These are places that the low cost access to global corrections can provide tremendous disruptive value. But the foundation doesn't want to be, it's not a business. We are providing an open protocol through the blockchain to support those businesses. And that's really what I think is special about the way that we're strengthening the foundation. It's a real commitment to the blockchain ethos.
Love it. Yeah, you've been on board with that from the beginning. It's super cool to see that thread kind of continue to get pulled through. So there's this deep technical expertise that Mike and his team are bringing to the project. Whenever a investment comes in, there's some kind of value that they bring. Alvaro, what's the value that you think Borderless is bringing here?
Well, as the only DePIN-oriented fund and the one that we are accumulating a lot of tools and value for our entrepreneurs. We are building the means for increase the liquidity in these protocols that we are investing. We are also amalgamating the most powerful DePIN projects into one fund, and we are creating the connections that are necessary because, we believe in cross-pollination and in learning from these projects one another. Helium being a great example, but many others. And of course, we have been in this industry since the very early beginning. So that's what we bring, a lot of mentoring, liquidity, capital, and connections. I think that's how we can probably summarize.
Love it. Yeah, super exciting to see these two projects kind of come together, these two entities come together and really help each other. Let's start kind of wrapping this up. So Mike, is pretty exciting news. I'm sure people watching it will want to be a part of the project in some way. Where is the best place to get hardware and start off just as a miner and a provider of the service?
Yeah, so I think that if you just go to the GEODNET website, there's a lot of information there. Our Discord channel, managed by our tireless social media manager, Rovan, is really active, and a lot of people there with deployments can help get folks started. So I'd recommend just starting at geodnet.com and go from there.
Awesome. Cool. And then let's see, Alvaro, I think the thing is a bunch of founders watch this show and they kind of see what's going on in the world. Max and I were kind of lucky enough to watch you and Mike from the get-go and kind of put this thing together and help be a little bit the glue between it. But what would you say to those founders if they want to be in Mike's seat one day with kind of check in hand, ready to go?
Well, I think one of the most important things that we are looking is projects that are generating real value. DePIN is just a tool, right? And the token economics and the community is just a tool to create networks that will provide them value for the broader people, right, and industries. So I think that take a look at what Mike is building and the rest of the team, because they got this very right from the beginning. And also another key part also is try to simplify as much as possible for the customer. Be Web 2 facing the customer, be Web 3 facing the community. And that's probably also another thing that we are very impressed of how GeoDNet has applied. And we really think that it lessens the friction for the customer where you need to lessen it, and it applies the DePIN principles to the supply side. So I think it's a great combination how GeoDNet does it.
Awesome. I'll put a plug for 𝐒𝐮𝐩𝐿 in here, Mike. I'll cue it up for you. But can you tell me how 𝐒𝐮𝐩𝐿 has kind of helped GeoDNet get to this point?
Yeah, so we met a little bit over a year ago when I was at the Joint Navigation Conference down in San Diego, where you live, and we got together, and you've been helping us kind of bring the community and educate us on some of the lessons learned in DePIN so far. And then, of course, you introduced us to Alvaro, which is greatly appreciated. You've helped us think through a lot of the tokenomics and see the miner side of the equation clearly. So it's been super helpful. We do, as Alvaro mentioned, we're really strong on the Web 2 side of the project. We've been in the industry for a long time, well recognized in the industry. But the token side and the blockchain side is a bit newer to us. We do have a great team member David Chen who drives that. But overall, I think the DePIN space is brand new, right? Even within the crypto ecosystem, it's a much newer space than, say, something like Bitcoin. So we're all learning together, and the insights that you're gathering from the community and sharing back with the team has been fantastic.
Super. Thank you. Thanks. Yeah. And I guess I'd be remiss to not make sure that Max gets his kind of share here, is that he had come up with this staking idea that now seems to be driving GEODNET. And Alvaro, maybe that's something that really caught Borderless's eye, is that GEODNET was doing this staking thing to signal where servers should be deployed. Was that anything in particular that caught you, or is there other aspects to the project that were really interesting as well?
That one was a relevant one. I think that, the DePIN model is about letting the community also deploy the infrastructure. But in some sense, what you want is the demand side, or the consumers, to actually be able to guide the deployment, right? So I think it's this staking mechanism is a very good sweet spot between having an open deployment, but also being able to guide a bit where the value is more is higher, right? So I think it's a great idea, and I'm very grateful that you guys came up with that and are applying it in GeoDNet.
Right on. Well, gentlemen, thank you guys so much for spending your time coming on the show and talking about this, making the announcement here. We are super excited to see where this goes. Thank you, guys.
Cheers.
Thank
Happy
you.
4th of July.